World War II Battle of Guadalcanal, August 7, 1942 to February 9, 1943. The Guadalcanal battle was one of the most darkest wars in history of the Navy. No one knew what the Guadalcanal was to begin with, so the average 18, 19 to 20-year-old Marine were fighting an unfamiliar enemy on an unfamiliar territory on an unfamiliar terrain.
Guadalcanal is part of the Solomon Islands in the Pacific Ocean. The three most important islands in Solomon Islands were Togaji, Florida, Guadalcanal, which all contained Japanese forces. The Guadalcanal lied in the center of shipping lanes, and whoever has control over these islands had control over the war.
Japanese troops arrived on Guadalcanal and Tulagi on June 8, 1942, had begun constructing airfields that could be used to launch attacks against planes heading to and from Australia, or could attack the Australian mainland itself. Then the American Marines landed 2 months later to take it away from them.
The Allies decided to focus their efforts on the Solomon Islands, with this in mind, the United States began planning Operation Watchtower, the capturing of Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands.
U.S. Marines attempted to launch a surprise attack on August 7, 1942, where the U.S. Enterprise bombarded Guadalcanal. The U.S. forces were able to land on the beaches of all 3 islands to control the Japanese airbase constructions.
The U.S. were able to secure Florida and Togaji by early afternoon on the 8th. On Guadalcanal, the 11,000 Marines involved in the landing met almost no resistance. By next morning, the U.S. captured the Japanese airfield and named it Henderson Field.
The U.S. Marines then sent the Enterprise to sail through the New Georgia Sound. Then that's when the Japanese then again attacked the U.S. ships and destroyed 4 of them in 32 minutes. The main goal for the Japanese was to take out the Enterprise and then wipe out the U.S. soldiers on the islands. But the Japanese had not take of the Enterprise first in order to successfully go to their plan.
But that's not what the Japanese did. On August 19th, nearly 1,000 Japanese reinforcements landed on Guadalcanal. To begin the effort to win back the airfield Henderson Field by the U.S., the first wave of reinforcements landed at Tavu Point, east of the U.S. position. Underestimating the strength of U.S. forces, the Japanese attempted a night raid of the field, hoping to surprise and overrun the defending forces. The U.S. forces had created a secure perimeter around the field and were able to kill all but 100 of the Japanese.
August 24, 1942, the USS Enterprise was bombarded with a series of airlight attacks. The Japanese ended up taking out the U.S. Enterprise. Then eventually the Enterprise returned to Pearl Harbor for repairs. On November 13, the Japanese reached Guadalcanal, and at night where they least suspected it, and the Marines that were on the island watched it all happen. The next day, the U.S. Marines on that island went to go look at what was the leftovers from this small war at sea, and is considered to be one of the darkest periods in the history of the U.S. Navy.
The USS Enterprise enters the war once again after its repairs are done, and took out any Japanese Marine ships and airlines. Japanese attempted to land another 2,000 soldiers, but they have to transport ships, and their escorts were engaged by the U.S. Navy east of Guadalcanal. On November 15, 1942, the U.S. Airlines went out to seek 4 transport ships of the Japanese.
One of the transports was destroyed, and the Enterprise convoy was diverted to the Shortland Islands to regroup from late August to early September. The U.S. began to strengthen their defense at Henderson Field, but as they came back, the U.S. Enterprise took 3 leftover transport ships out. After that happened, then the U.S. Marines took over Guadalcanal for good, but continued to stay awoke until all that's left of the Japanese were gone.
Battle of the Guadalcanal was the first major offensive and decisive victory for the Allies. The ensuing 6-month Guadalcanal campaign proved to be the turning point of the Pacific War. Battle of Guadalcanal was notable for the interrelationship of a complex series of engagements on the ground, at sea, and in the air.